All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Bruce Johnson, and I serve as Chief of the Auxiliaries Youth Programs Division. This evening is our second quarterly AuxScout All Hands Staff Forum for this year. As you probably remember, the one we had back in January was our annual AuxScout workshop. If you were unable to attend that, I'd urge you to go to our YouTube channel and watch it. There was lots of good stuff in that training that you would benefit from. I'd like to thank those of you who sent questions for this evening's program, and we will get to those in the second half of this event. Sounds like we're getting quite a few people logging in. Okay, this evening we're going to start with some news on AuxScout, and then we'll take your questions. And there are one or two discussion topics that I'd like to get into if we have time. We're going to shoot for finishing up in 60 minutes. What we seem to be doing lately is we'll finish up somewhere around 60 minutes, but then we'll leave the session open and we'll take your questions or have discussion, whatever you'd like to talk about, so that we can cover what's on your mind. So if you're not talking, keep your mic turned off, but please go ahead and leave your camera on. And if you have an urgent question, if you want to type it in the chat box, please go ahead and do that. Holly and Ron will both be monitoring that. If it's really urgent, go ahead and break in and we'll talk about it. So, okay, let's start with news. We've got a few topics that we're going to be covering tonight. The status of the 7001 form, which is the new member application, new ship organizing efforts. PJ O'Neill is going to talk about workshops as well as how we did on Eagle and AIM. Ron is going to give us an update on program support. We're going to have a reminder about training requirements and program goals for the year, and one or two other things that didn't make it onto the list. So we've all been waiting for the updated ANSC 7001 form, which is the new member application, enrollment application. And it's essentially ready to go, but what's holding it up is the auxiliary is changing the new member requirements. And apparently that takes everybody and his brother to sign off on that at Coast Guard headquarters. So until that issue gets resolved, I think we're going to be in a holding pattern for the new 7001. Now, what's different about the form that matters to us is there will be a checkbox on it for Sea Scout youth and adults who are joining the auxiliary. And when that box is checked, then when your DIROX office inputs the new member application into AuxData, the checkbox in the AuxData record for Sea Scout will get checked. In the meantime, though, if you are aware of Sea Scout youth or adults who don't have the Sea Scout box checked in their AuxData record, your DSO AS should be able to take care of it, and Ron and I can take care of it as well. And Ron is going to update you a little more on that in a few minutes. Actually, he's going to update you more on that right now. So let me turn this over to Ron, and he has a few things he wants to cover with you.
Gee whiz, I guess I should have looked at the slide deck. That's okay. So the things going on in program support, or as we're typically referred to as the SIS branch, we have got a variety of things that we're needing to do right now. We have AuxB Wiki, which of course everybody here probably knows about AuxB Wiki. But as you might guess from a name like AuxB Wiki, That means it actually belonged to the B directorate back when this whole thing lived under the B directorate. Well, what has happened is that the B directorate is no longer using AuxScout, and so they want to shut it down. So we are in the process of moving the AuxScout content. There is a structure issue that we stumbled on with the particular version of MediaWiki, which is what they use. So we're working our way through that. It's unfortunately a slog to have to do that, but we will get it done. And then we are going to request that the B directorate set us up with a special file on the server that will automatically send anybody who looks for AuxScout under there over to our end of the world. That way it should save people with bookmarks and things like that and all the other things that we have already done. That is really the biggest piece of that. So that's a work in progress, and by golly, I sure hope it's done by the time we meet the next time. Tell you truthfully, it burns up time. It really does, especially when you've got a structure issue. The photo archive, this is the part where I have to jump over to the other hat. We welcome all submissions of properly uniformed persons with model releases done. You can put those photos in our Dropbox. Drop me a note. I will make sure they get put into our media archive. Our media archive, whether you know it or not, is probably the best source for any type of photos that you want to do, promotional materials, especially for promotional materials that include both auxiliarists and Sea Scouts. It is heavy on safety at sea photos, and I do mean heavy on safety at sea photos. It is, you've got lots of great photos there that you can use. Everybody in these uniforms, are really pretty simple to get. All you have to do is let us know. If you go to AuxScout.org, there's a link right there to the site, and then you can go in and you can search for photos. So that, you can kind of look those up and download them. We add to it all the time. I think the last big batch of updates, though, that I did was Safety at Sea Galveston. That was the last big batch I had. So, but they're doing all the good stuff. I'm going to jump around for a minute, then I'll come back. We have added, most of you may know that we have a congratulatory letter program that NACO sends out a letter congratulating anyone who applies, whether it's an Eagle Scout, Gold Award recipient, Quartermaster. Well, in the last few months here, we've added the Venturing Summit Award recipients, and we've actually already had our very first one. So those are now part and parcel of what we do. And so it's really important, and it's a pretty simple thing to submit them, and you can get them done. And the nice thing is they don't have to go back to NACO to get signatures, because we've got that all worked out with NACO to have that done. By the way, anybody doesn't know this, the Commandant actually does it too. You can request them from the Commandant of the Coast Guard. So those are out there. Use them, please. We mostly get Eagle Scout ones, if you really want to know. A rather interesting situation. Now let's jump back up to, I should have put these in the right order. We have been working with the Auxiliary Association to work on donations and grants. Of course, for those of you who don't know, the Auxiliary Association, or as we call it, AuxA, is the nonprofit arm of the Auxiliary. They're the ones that can actually accept donations, if whatever it's a chartered ship, somebody wants to donate a ship, or if somebody wants to donate cash to our flotillas or our divisions. They're now going to start accepting donations on behalf of our Sea Scout ships as well. And they can request grants from AuxA to help cover certain costs, like the charter fees that you have to pay to the BSA and things like that, which, by the way, that's an annual thing. So, those are all part of the things we're looking at. We did get a wonderful piece of news at N-Train this year the National Auxiliary approved cutting the national dues for youth 17 and under by 50%. 50, not 15. So that was a great change for all of us, especially because we know we have some flotillas that have been doing that themselves, and maybe a few divisions that have done it. But you know, this is actually happening at the national level as well. So it'll make it a little bit easier for youth members who want to become part of the auxiliary, you know, so that they can actually become auxiliary members. So that will be, I'm sure, will be coming out, as will more information on the Auxiliary Association donations and grants.
Okay, thank you very much, Ron. Let's move on to PJ O'Neill, who has had a very wild weekend in one of his other volunteer roles, but let's ask PJ to update us on STEM training and some other things that they've been working on.
All right, well, thank you very much, Bruce. I'm going to start off with our Tech Talk program. Just a quick recap if you're not familiar. Tech Talks are online, held the fourth Tuesday of each month. And the purpose of the Tech Talks is to provide training that is supplemental to or a type of training that would not typically be available to Sea Scouts in their ship, but it's just as pertinent for auxiliaries as well. And I'll give a quick example shortly. The Tech Talks are live and are promoted on the AuxScout Facebook page. If you're not available at 9 p.m. Eastern time on the fourth Tuesday of the month for the Tech Talk, good news, they're recorded. And they are posted both on the AuxScout YouTube channel as well as the Sea Scout YouTube channel. And they live there forever. So they are free and available for use individually as well as for group training. So either a whole 40-minute or so Tech Talk could be used for ship or flotilla training, or just highlights that pertain to your particular unit. We really need to, the STEM branch really needs help getting the word out on Tech Talks. We get a lot of good engagement off of the Facebook posts, but please share the topics and the invites with as many auxiliaries and Sea Scout leaders that you think might be interested. It's also a positive experience for auxiliaries not familiar with what AuxScout does. So if there are auxiliaries in your flotilla or division that might be interested in the topic, please pass along that word, because it's a way to introduce them to the AuxScout program. And you can see some of the topics that we had. A quick update on the Academy Introduction Mission program, better known as AIM. The selection committee received applications and forwarded along 3 positive recommendations for applications, as well as a 4th for consideration. So the Coast Guard Academy makes the final decision on applications, but the esteemed group that you see at the top of the slide reviewed all the applications. And I should mention that the Coast Guard Academy, these people work to secure designated billets or slots for specifically reserved for Sea Scouts at the AIM summer program. So we can see the ships where student candidates were endorsed from: Mississippi, Washington, D.C., and Maryland. The U.S. Coast Guard Academy will make their final decisions. I think it's 5 May, but in the beginning of May, the final word will come out on the selection. A quick update on the Eagle program. As we can see, the numbers were really good for applicants, and the spots are few. With only 4 guaranteed spots and 2 standbys, there were 13 applicants from across the country. So you can see that the interest in the program has been growing for this short duration cruise, where the Sea Scouts will join the Eagle crew on one leg of the trip. Both of these programs, AIM and the Eagle, application periods are closed in case that that wasn't clear, if there was a question about that. And these are both annual programs. So if you're unfamiliar with the program, tonight's forum isn't quite the place to go in depth, but they are annual programs. If you're unfamiliar with them, these are two programs you really do want to be promoting across the Sea Scouts. Many are aware of the Eagle. We particularly want to increase awareness of the AIM program as well. And lastly, Quick Tips is almost coming to fruition. So what will Quick Tips be? A video library of 3 to 5 minute videos on topics that will help auxiliaries as they interface with Sea Scouts with all sorts of issues, from building partnerships to getting involved with Sea Scouts to answering questions from well-established partnerships, and addressing many of the topics that often come up in an AuxScout all hands forum such as this. Questions like, I'm having this type of event, who exactly needs to have youth protection training? Who needs safe swim type training? How do we charter a Sea Scout ship? What are the steps in recharter? So these will be quick sound bites of good quality training that will be available also on the AuxScout YouTube channel, so that they can be referenced and then cross-linked with AuxB Wiki, so that the information is readily available, and hopefully answering a lot of questions that year after year, as people join the program, the questions come up. So our intention is to have a functioning library of answers in the form of short trainings. So any topic suggestions, I will happily put my email in the chat box. And if you have questions that commonly come up in your ship flotilla existence, I would love to hear those questions.
Thank you very much, PJ. And I want to echo PJ's comment that the Coast Guard Tech Talks workshops that his team puts on are really valuable, not just for the Sea Scouts, but also for your local flotilla. My flotilla has used a number of those Tech Talks workshops in our member training part of the flotilla meetings, and they have been really enthusiastically received. They're very well done. They are topical things that our members would be interested in, as well as, of course, the Sea Scouts would be. So please check those out.
Bruce, if I could I give
yeah,
a 30-second example?
Sure.
From last month's Tech Talk in March, we had a commissioned officer from NOAA that works in the Marine Chart Office. And as many auxiliaries know, that the printed charts are going to be archived and soon extinct. And that can be quite a thought to ponder for many of us on the boat. In last month's Tech Talk, which is recorded and posted, the lieutenant commander walked us through the site on how to actually use the new charting program, how to print off the charts from that program if you're interested, and so did kind of a step-by-step tutorial of how to create your own customized charts as well, very slowly and step-by-step. So that is an example where you could take just that part of the Tech Talk and use it for a whole flotilla-wide training that is pertinent to every coxswain and crew member in your flotilla division. Thanks, Bruce.
And we definitely want to promote that, not just in our own flotillas, but throughout our districts. This is just another way that we are bringing value back into the auxiliary, and it's a good way for us to be promoting the AuxScout program to our colleagues who may not yet be fully sold on the idea that what we're doing is important for the future of the auxiliary. And speaking of future of the auxiliary, we currently have no vacancies as such on our national staff, but Ron Blaisdell, bless his heart, is doing 3 jobs for us, as well as several other jobs for the auxiliary. And we would like to find somebody to step into the role, the branch assistant position for the photo archives. And we really don't have time to get into the details of it here, But if that sounds like that's something that might interest you or might be a good fit for somebody else you know, please pass the names on to Ron or to me, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And we'll be glad to put them to work if it's a good fit for the job. So that one's definitely available, and my bosses know that that's something that we want to do. I just want to remind everybody about our program goals for the current term. Our current term is concurrent with the National Commodore, Commodore Gus Formato. So the term is 2022 to 2024. And the vision statement that we developed for this term, the Coast Guard Auxiliary Youth Programs is a change agent for what the auxiliary looks like. We teach and mentor potential youth members who are America's future leaders and bring young people into Team Coast Guard membership, thereby strengthening the active duty, reserve, civilian, and auxiliary United States Coast Guard. And I know this sounds very high-minded, but here's our big, hairy, audacious goal, which is really much more specific about what we're shooting for. Sea Scout ship in every Coast Guard Auxiliary division. That doesn't mean that we expect that all of these ships will be auxiliary chartered. What it does mean, though, is that we should be reaching out to Sea Scout ships in our areas to help them with wherever they need help. And if there are no Sea Scout ships in our area, we should help form them. Doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be the chartered organization, but if we can work with another group to get it started, that's good. If we identify a flotilla or a division that would like to charter it, that's also very good. So that's what we're shooting for. There are lots of places where there are auxiliary flotillas, but there are no Sea Scout ships. Interestingly enough, there are some places where there are ships, but no Coast Guard auxiliary units. So we are working to try to support the membership in both organizations. This is just a reminder that we have a number of ways that we pass information among ourselves. We do a quarterly all-staff forum. Normally it would be on the second Sundays of the month. This month we pushed it to the third Sunday because the second Sunday was both Easter and Passover. The youth programs and DSOAS meetings are normally on the fourth Sundays of the month every 3 months. That one's happening even less frequently on the day that we planned on doing it. Next one coming up is May 21st. So the DSOs and members of the national staff who are on this call, please make sure that that's on your calendar. And then the steering team meetings are for the branch chiefs and me. And so this is just a reminder about all of this. Part of why I mention this here is both to make sure that you've got this on your calendars, but also remember that we need to be talking to our flotilla and division leadership about AuxScout, tell them about how the Sea Scouts are relevant to us. I frankly am very concerned because auxiliary membership has steadily declined in the time that I've been in the auxiliary. I've been an auxiliarist for 23 years. And when I joined, membership was almost at 40,000 members. And today we're now at about 22,000 members. Well, we can't keep on bleeding membership and expect that we're going to continue to be strong and active. And working with the Sea Scouts is a really important way for us to be growing our membership and making the Coast Guard Auxiliary a stronger organization. So that's my soapbox for the moment on that subject. Here are a few reminder topics that we're going to just touch on very quickly. Required BSA training, monthly reporting. utilizing AuxScout social media, including YouTube, publicize what's going on in AuxScout in your district, reach out to local Sea-Scout leadership and units, promote and train AuxScout at your D-Train, and know your AuxScout resources. And I'll just cover a few of these things very quickly. As a reminder, anybody who is involved with AuxScout must complete youth protection training, and they need to retake this training every 24 months. If you are an AuxScout staff officer at any level, you must take this training. If you are a flotilla commander or division commander that charters a Sea Scout ship, you must take this training. And there are a bunch of other people who have to take this training, including anybody who is involved in a Sea Scout activity. It's really painless. It takes about 90 minutes to complete. It's very well done. When you've completed the training, make sure that you save the completion certificate and have your flotilla commander send it in to DIROX for entry into AuxData. And yes, I know that there are some districts that handle that a little bit differently, but your DSOAS would definitely know how that is handled in your district. Above and beyond that, all AuxScout staff officers and youth program staff should have also completed the Sea Scout Adult Leader Basic Training course, which is also on my.scouting.org. It takes about 4 hours to complete, and it provides a good basic introduction to what the Sea Scout program is. It's not going to make you an expert in Sea Scouting. If after you take this, you decide you want to take additional training, Sea Badge is a terrific training opportunity, and we can put you together with those courses if you're interested. So that's really all I wanted to say about that. You all have seen this wonderful piece of artwork before. Don't forget that you need to do your monthly reports every month. That means reporting off to your district and reporting off to the youth program staff so that we know what you're doing. I do not live by the maxim, no news is good news, because no news translates to me as nothing is happening. And we have been given a great opportunity to make the Coast Guard Auxiliary and the Sea Scout programs stronger, and we need to know what you're up to. If you need help, we need to know about that. The other piece of the paperwork equation is make sure that you log your hours in AuxData. And if you are registered with the Sea Scouts, make sure that you include the operation code AUXSCO2 in all of your hours reports. If you're not registered with the Sea Scouts, include the operations code AUXSCO1 only for things that you do in support of the AuxScout program and Sea Scouts. So that's what I want to say about everybody's favorite topic, paperwork. Social media, we need to use it to promote AuxScout and the Sea Scouts. YouTube is good for all of our potential audiences. Facebook is better for the adults. Instagram is better for reaching the teenagers. We have staff who maintain accounts in all of these areas, but be sure to post information about the cool stuff going on in your district or division or flotilla that involves working with the Sea Scouts. This creates positive buzz. Make sure that you take photographs. If it's photographs of youth, make sure that you do the 70-20 alpha form and send that in to the Auxiliary Association, where they will take care of it for you. But let's make sure that people know what we're up to. We've got lots of really cool stuff going on, but it's important that we toot our own horn about that. Here's one other opportunity to work with the Sea Scouts. As we're entering into the active vessel safety check season, let's remember to reach out to the Scouts. One of the ways that you can do that is to offer to do vessel safety checks at the local Scout camp. Holly and I do that every year, and we do somewhere around 150 vessel safety checks. The Scouts love us for that. We're helping to point out maintenance issues that they need to take care of before the boats go in the water. And it also helps them with their national camp accreditation program. And frankly, it just makes the boat safer. It happens to be a great way to get a lot of vessel safety checks done with not a huge investment of time. Remember that all Sea Scout vessels are supposed to have vessel safety checks every year. I can tell you with absolute certainty that not all of them get that done, but make it easy for that to happen, and get your Sea Scouts in your area involved in helping with this effort, whether it's promoting vessel safety checks or accompanying you on vessel safety checks so that they can learn how to do them. And maybe that would be a good way to quietly sell them on the idea that they need to join the auxiliary as well. So that's it for what I want to say about reminders. Let's go to your staff questions. And the first one that I have, I thought was a really outstanding question. Comes from Keith Wilson in North Carolina. He asked, he'd like to get Sea Scouts invited on patrols by flotillas in his division. What are the requirements for taking out Sea Scouts? Now, this is covered in the SOP, which I'm sure all of you have read backwards and forwards and have memorized every single word, right? Well, I'm sure you haven't, but I hope that you have at least read it carefully and have a good idea of what it says. So let's cover this. First of all auxiliarists must have completed the youth protection training within the last 24 months, and their youth protection completion certificates must have been sent to Diorax for entry into AuxData. So AuxData does track when you had this input into the system. And Ron Blaisdell runs a report, I think it's on a monthly basis, that tells us who has completed this training and who is current with it, who is out of date, and who just hasn't taken it. So anybody who's involved with that patrol must have taken youth protection training. In addition to that, at least one adult, and it can be either an auxiliarist or a Sea Scout leader if they're accompanying the Scouts, must have completed the BSA safety afloat training and CPR training within the last 24 months. And if it's an auxiliarist, that completion certificate must be sent into Diorax for entry into AuxData. That requirement can be satisfied by a Sea Scout leader if they are accompanying the Scouts on the patrol. Another thing to remember is if the group of Sea Scouts includes both genders, then the adult leadership, and adult leadership we mean adults 18 or older, must be of both genders. If the group, if the Sea Scout group will be of a single gender, then the adult leadership must include at least one adult of that particular gender. This can be met by either auxiliarists or Sea Scout leaders, or a combination of both. So let's say that the crew is all male, but you have a Sea Scout leader who's a woman, and you have a co-ed group of Sea Scouts going out on the boat. You're covered, that takes care of it. The Scouts take care of making sure that the Scout leaders' youth protection training is up to date. So if they're currently registered with BSA, their youth protection training is up to date. Okay, when you request a patrol from your order issuing authority, make sure that you include in the notes that you're planning on having Sea Scouts aboard as guests on the patrol. It's up to the order issuing authority to decide whether they're going to okay that or not. In most cases, they will, but there may be some good reason why they'll decide that they don't want to approve it for this particular patrol. And that is their call. You know, they can say yes or no on that. And we found that most order issuing authorities are pretty good about allowing Sea Scouts to participate in patrols. Another thing to remember is that the Sea Scouts have to have appropriate personal protective equipment when they go out on patrols. If the Scouts bring acceptable life jackets, let them use them. If they don't have the life jackets with them, you can provide them with a Coast Guard auxiliary life jacket. And when you do provide that for them, it's just for the term of the patrol. There's no requirement that they have to have PLBs or the other types of equipment that we're required to have when we're going out on patrols. So signal mirrors, whistles, and so on, they're not required to have. But if they have a Coast Guard approved life jacket that they bring with them, let them use that. And as a final reminder, if any photographs are taken of the Sea Scouts, make sure that you get a 7020 alpha form completed by the Scouts parent or guardian, and then send it in to the Auxiliary Association. The Scouts, that is the Scout unit, can keep a copy of that form, but we are not allowed to keep a copy of the form. We can keep a track, like a running list of who has completed those forms, but we're not allowed to retain them. And the reason for that is that there's PII on those forms that the Coast Guard doesn't want us to be retaining. So that's what's supposed to happen. And the address that you send those to is on AuxScout Wiki that Ron Blaisdell talked about a little bit ago. So great question, Keith. That's what you need to know about this. And it works like a charm. And so far we haven't had any problems with that I'm aware of. Here's another interesting question that came in. Sea Scouts can have dual membership with a Scouts BSA troop. Can Sea Scouts under 18 have dual membership with the auxiliary? And of course, the answer is yes. Any currently registered Sea Scout who's at least 14 years old can apply for membership in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. At the recent N-Train, the National Board decided that they will give a 50% reduction on national dues for auxiliaries who are under 18. The Chief Director's Office is currently reviewing that, but I'm expecting that that will be rolled out nationally. And we're also encouraging flotillas, divisions, and districts to consider waiving or reducing the annual dues for auxiliaries who are under 18 at each organizational level. We want to try to make this as affordable as we can for the Scouts, who typically don't have a whole lot of extra money rolling around in their pockets. So we're entering a very busy season for starting new Sea Scout ships. We've had 3 new auxiliary chartered Sea Scout ships in the last month. And I'm thinking that we have another 3 that are probably going to come online in the next 6 weeks or so. So I'd like to take a few moments to review what's involved in starting new ships. Has Mac McBride been able to join us online?
Mac, I got a text from him. He is not going to be joining us today.
Yeah, he's attending his daughter's recital, and family has to come first. Bart, did you want to take this? This is you actually wrote this section, so it should be kind of familiar with you.
Okay. We can go through the slides and I'll try to expand on any of the slides. Okay, let's start.
Right. So let's see.
Okay. When you, listed here are the application or the BSA forms that you need to be using: new unit application, annual charter agreement, unit release form. If you are, this is for a flotilla or a division that is taking over an existing ship, and then any other council specific forms. Now, when chartering a new ship, transfer charter of an existing ship and change unit with a change in unit number. I should have pointed out the last one was you're taking over a unit, a ship with no change in unit number. If you are changing the unit number, it's considered a new ship. So you still need a new unit application, the annual charter agreement, new adult applications, new youth applications, and any council specific forms. And then while you're doing that, when you're submitting the adult applications and any youth applications where the youth's age is over 18, is 18 or greater, 18 to 21, or 18 to 20 really, be sure to have their YPT form with them. Do that for the adult applications and youth that require it. That way things move through a lot easier.
And
Go ahead.
it's good to just remind everybody that every Scout Council has somebody who can help you with the paperwork process of chartering a ship, whether it's a district executive or a membership committee or whatever. You just call up the local council office and tell them what you want to do, and they'll put you in touch with somebody who can help you with that process.
Correct. And they will work with you to make sure that everything is filled out properly and submitted properly. So you have a complete submission. On the Coast Guard side, the process for requesting a Coast Guard charter is the same for flotilla or a division. You have the flotilla commander or the division commander do an attestation that all elected officers and requisite staff officers and members needing YPT training have completed their YPT training. And even though they may be in Aux data, it's probably not a bad idea to include their YPT certificate with your submission. He also attests that the local Scout Council has approved the charter. You'll know that because your charter application to the council will include a unit number. So you can just say the local council, the name of the council has approved our application for charter. The charter, the ship will be ship number 1234, for instance, and then that should be sufficient. Then you give them a roster of the ship adult leaders, the skipper, the committee chair, the charter organization rep, your committee members, and any mates, and include a youth roster of the ship's youth, first name, last name only. And as already mentioned, their YPT certificates to the auxiliaries, especially those who haven't been put into Aux data yet, but it's probably good to do the same. Okay, for a flotilla, requesting it, the flotilla commander sends his request to the division commander, to district captain, to the district commodore, or perhaps to the chief of staff, and then to the DIROCs. Sometimes the district commodore or chief of staff will bump it down to the DSO-AS for final review before sending it on to DIROCs. On the division sides, it's division commander, district captain, district commodore, DIROCs. And that's that's the process. It's simple. We have handouts or documents that we can that you can obtain that will help you step through the process.
Yeah, the new ship check. Thank you very much, Bart. The new ship checklist that Bart helped to develop steps you through the process in very simple terms. It's a fairly short document, and if you follow the checklist, you won't have any trouble with it. Thank you very much, Bart, for stepping in without any advance notice. But you've gone through this process many times, so you know it backwards and forwards.
Well, thank you. You're welcome.
And just as an update, we're now up to 30 Coast Guard auxiliary chartered Sea Scout ships. My goal is to be at 36 at year's end, and I know that we can make that. Okay, here was an interesting question that came in. If a flotilla division is chartering a Sea Scout ship, can they use unit funds to pay for the BSA charter application? And the answer is yes. If a flotilla or division is chartering a ship, then the ship is an extension of the auxiliary unit, and the BSA charter fee is a legitimate auxiliary unit expense. As Ron mentioned, we're working on setting up a mechanism so that we can get funding from a grant source with the Auxiliary Association that will help with that. We're not quite set up to do it yet, but I think it'll be happening in the next few months. And I'm hoping that we can use that also to help support recharter fees as well. I don't believe that we can tap it for membership fees in BSA, but if we can handle it for the BSA charter application, that will help cover some of the expenses that are involved with this. Let's see, I understand the process of submitting a charter renewal application to the local BSA council. However, I'm wondering if the flotilla needs to submit any renewal paperwork to the auxiliary chain of leadership to renew a flotilla chartered ship. I am pleased to say the answer to that is no. Once the ship is chartered with the auxiliary, it's chartered. So you don't have to go through that process again. It's not that bad if you follow the instructions the first time around, but that's a one and done situation. Whereas the BSA charter, you're going to do that every year. For most Sea Scout ships, the recharter process ends in December. There are some councils where it's a different one. So let's see, how are we spreading the word to our BSA counterparts? I'd like to say that we're going to be going to the BSA National Annual Meeting this year, but there isn't going to be one. BSA is still working through its bankruptcy filing, and it seems like a bad time for them to be spending money to bring everybody into a particular area. So we are keeping them aware of what we're doing. I can tell you that the National Sea Scout Committee is very pleased with what we're doing with them and are very supportive of our efforts to have the two organizations working together. And they are using that to show what a good partnership with an outside organization looks like. So we do have a lot of subscribers to our AuxScout Facebook group, which currently numbers about 1,700 members. If you're not a subscriber yet, please consider joining the group. It's a great place to get good ideas and find out about things happening probably before we say it anywhere else. So I'd like to ask, and this is a discussion topic, how are people promoting AuxScout in their local district? And in particular, is anybody working on selling AuxScout to the Gold Side district commanders? So if you have a response to that question, please turn on your mic and we'd like to hear from you. What we're seeing in this photograph is Sea Scouts providing color guard at a district conference. Vanna is bringing in a note to me. Okay. Anybody want to offer any other thoughts about that?
Yeah. Hi, Bruce.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Jennifer Angone in Chicago. Flotilla 0953511 and skipper of ship 5111. I was just typing up my response when you said we could verbalize it, but just as a reminder, National Safe Boating Week is May 20th through 26th. And we have been, our ship, or I, as a staff officer for AuxScout, have been reaching out to the various ships in my district, reminding them of Safe Boating Week. We have Cub Scouts that have reached out to us because we've had a couple of events that have gone viral in the last year. And as we all know, Cub Scouts wear the blue uniform. So we dress alike, we have the same uniform. And the littles, even though they can't participate in directly with Sea Scouts, we're hosting a couple of tiger dens at our ship. So we have Sea Scouts who will be teaching them life jacket safety and safe swimming protocol. So have a buddy and how to wear a life jacket appropriately. And Sea Scouts, in order to advance from recruit to apprentice level, have to know how to do that. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 type of thing. And I have 2 Cub Scout dens coming to visit us Sea Scouts in April and May in lieu of National Safe Boating Week and their program Floats and Boats. And so we have a couple of Sea Scouts from our ship that are available, but I've also invited auxiliaries from our division, the 35th Division, to come and help out on both of these events. So that's a Sea Scout, Cub Scout. That's kind of like that just was one of those things where all the things just fell together. And Cub Scouts reached out to us and said, you guys are Sea Scouts. Oh, you guys are the auxiliary. You probably know about, you could probably help us with this. So, so I would encourage everyone to reach out to not just, Sea Scout ships, but also, Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts even, to say, hi, I don't know if you're doing floats and boats, safe swimming protocol, because a lot of times these parents of Cub Scout dens, it's not just Sea Scout parents, but Boy Scout and Cub Scout parents are also looking at us going, oh gosh,
Okay.
What an exciting thing. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Sure.
I see Craig Burkhart's hand is up.
Yes, Bruce, you asked a question about how we can make our district commander aware of what's going on in our Sea Scout ship. And just a couple of things that I think our approach is that we just simply try to do things with the Gold Side Coast Guard people. So as an example, we had all our Sea Scouts go down and do a service project at a local Coast Guard boat station. We happened to get there a week in advance, and we did a deep clean of all of their vessels and their motor vehicles that helped them get ready for inspection. Another example is we had our orientation day for our new members at the boat station. Also, we ended up taking a weekend trip to, in our case, the largest base happened to be the one in Elizabeth City for the weekend. And, you know, the word just kind of bubbles up that the Sea Scouts are involved. And so we had a kind of event recently. We weren't able to get them, but we did invite the district commander to show up to something. And while we got our regrets, we got a message back that indicated that he was very well aware that we had been around his district and that he was aware of what we're up to. And so it has the benefit of letting the Gold Side know that we're definitely there, and just great activities and service projects for the young people as well.
Thank you very much. I see Joyce Fender's hand is up.
Yeah, we do let me make sure. We do something similar, but with the older cubs, with the Webelos, they have to do the Aquanaut pin. And we actually have the Sea Scouts go with auxiliary leaders and teach that to them. And we do that every year. And this will be our second year actually, but we're scheduled to do it in just Monday, tomorrow. And we're also having the Sea Scouts come out to like our annual division-wide flotilla get together for SAR training and all that. And we're going to get the Sea Scouts involved with that this year. And we also have the Sea Scouts currently with just about everything in the council. They're volunteering to do the flags on every ceremony. So all of the Silver Beaver dinners, all of the fundraising dinners. We've had Sea Scouts doing the flags at all of them, opening days at all the yacht clubs, just trying to build the idea that we're there.
Okay, thank you very much. Skipper Rahr.
Yes, hi. Bill Rahr with the Sea Scout ship Argo 451 in the Chief Seattle area, Puget Sound, Greater Salish Sea. The Chief Seattle Council fleet, in other words, all the Sea Scout ships that are associated with Puget Sound, we have what's called a Sea Scout roundtable meeting. It's our old skippers and mates meeting that we've been using for 80 years, where all the ships get together just like a roundtable. And at that meeting, at that roundtable meeting that happens the first Tuesday of every month, except for long cruise season, we have the Coast Guard Auxiliary there. Klaus, I'm hoping you can kind of add to this. So in other words, we're all aware of what they offer, and each ship uses and participates with the Coast Guard AUX to the level that they'd like to. And the Coast Guard AUX, asks us and includes us in all our activities and trainings. We do 3 safety at seas, one at Station Seattle, one at the Seattle Maritime Academy, and then we meet the fast boats out in Puget Sound off the locks, and we do dissimilar boat handling where we tow and come alongside and do all kinds of things where we mix the crews up with the Coast Guard active. And so it's been very successful in the Seattle area. And Klaus, can you say something real quick? Klaus, sorry.
Yeah, certainly. So this is Klaus Nass, the DSO AS for District 13. Bill's right. I mean, we have been very visible to the active duty in Sector Puget Sound. And one of your questions was, how do we reach them? Actually, they reached out to us. Recruiting goals are something that is high in the minds of leadership, and had the deputy commander, sector commander, reach out to us and actually explore ways that she could integrate the active duty in some of the events that are being held. That said, we're also competing with other organizations for the active duty's attention. And did I say recruiting was an issue? Well, it shows in the ranks and the availability of our active duty to support the multiple youth activities that are looking for, opportunities to learn more about the Coast Guard. So we're competing with the Sea Cadet program and Girl Scout programs that are being led by leaders within the active duty who are Girl Scout leaders and that sort of thing. So those are some of our challenges, but there's also this varied, what you call it, concerted effort to try to bring the active duty to our meetings of the Sea Scout ships and the safety at seas. So we're happy about that. We've got our other challenges in District 13, but we were managing to do what we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Chuck Miracle, your hand is up.
Hi, everybody. I'm just a happy ADSO AS down here at Division 6 in the Houston area and our 8th Coastal Region. And we actually haven't covered probably a couple of untapped resources. Of course, we had the Galveston Safety at Sea reconstituted, did very well. And this weekend, we just came off the Maritime Youth Expo, where basically the Port of Houston with the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, and 21 area port industries put together a big production at one of the maritime schools and invite several high schools in to visit the maritime industries. Well, the net result is, and we've been doing this for about 12 years now, we had about 640 high school students from the ages of 13 to 18 attend the event. And so that was good for us because we got about 75 solid leads for Sea Scouts out of that list, most of which were not aware the Sea Scouts existed. But the untapped resource from the active duty side were two things that happened. First of all, Coast Guard recruiting there was in force. There were probably 24 active duty Coast Guard personnel at this event. We're representing various things from aids and navigation all the way through recruiting and you name it. And what I found was several of the active duty who had just transferred into Sector Houston Galveston were adult leaders in scouting looking for a place to be an adult leader. So I said, gee, that's interesting. Welcome to the Sea Scouts. And the incoming sector commander at Sector Houston Galveston, his son's actually going to join our ship. So there's a lot of interesting interaction, not only from the active duty, we have a lot of scouting activity in the active duty personnel ranks. So as they transfer into a new AOR, that's a great resource to get your hands on. The recruiting command, and we kind of came up with a little plan. Recruiting command goes to these things and they get a lot of names to see a lot of people. The problem they have is they can't really do anything with anybody under the age of 17. So what if we position the Sea Scout program as a development program for Coast Guard recruiting? They send the 14 to whatever year old into the Sea Scouts to develop skills to keep their excitement and their attitude in the proper place for wanting to join the Coast Guard. So basically now what the Coast Guard recruiting is going to be doing is sending the kids that are too young to take into active duty, pushing them towards the Sea Scouts, directly to the Sea Scouts, as I am the ADSO, basically working through me to position these kids into ships. So recruiting is basically working now with the Sea Scouts, at least in our area, in our sector. So I see a very positive future with the goal side.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a great idea. I want to ask another question, and I don't necessarily need to spend much time on it. We're always looking for ways to improve how we support you. How can we, the Youth Programs Division and the AuxScout staff, how can we do a better job of supporting what you're doing? Do you have recommendations for changes in our goals or our methods? What do you think of our priorities? And do you see untapped potential partners within the Coast Guard or the auxiliary? Chuck just mentioned one that I think we really need to follow up on. So please be thinking about that question, and if you have any ideas on the subject, please send them in to your DSO or whoever you think is the right person to receive that. Okay, so I happen to know that the National Sea Scout Commodore is on this call. Ben Farrell, can I put you on the spot? And do you want to say anything to the group? He's a very busy guy, and hopefully he didn't run out of steam.
Oh, I ran out of steam about 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, well, I've been wanting to attend these quarterly meetings for some time, and it seems that every scouting group that and civil organization that I belong to wants to meet on Sunday nights, and so I just decided to blow off a lot of other Zoom meetings, and so I could join you, my shipmates in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. I just want to express my thanks and appreciation for what you're doing in support of the Sea Scout program. And under Bruce's leadership and certainly your leadership, we have really flourished. And the folks at the National BSA headquarters notice our efforts to improve our relationship and to highlight the accomplishments that both of our organizations have accomplished. So the big area of emphasis right now is growth. And for the last several months, I've been on this we must grow and thrive mode. Now that the bankruptcy is quickly behind us, and that the U.S. Federal District Court has affirmed the recommendations of the bankruptcy judge, and anything that you can do to help us increase our membership in terms of encouraging flotillas and divisions to host charter Sea Scout ships would be greatly appreciated. And from the Sea Scout side of the house, I do know that many of our youth and adult members are interested in becoming members of the auxiliary. Many have taken advantage of the membership pathways. And so it's definitely have been a win-win for all of us. And so as a fellow auxiliarist, I'm very proud of what you guys are doing. I'm proud of our affiliation and what we're doing to support our young people. And if anything, the events of late that we've seen in the news, involving older youth members, having some sort of structured program that reinforces the values of both of our organizations is more important than ever. So, Bruce, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share my thoughts and to express my appreciation to y'all.
Thank you very much, Ben. And I'd like to echo my your comments that the work that all of you are doing are really making a difference for building a stronger Coast Guard auxiliary and getting more younger boaters involved in the Sea Scout program. This is doing a good thing for the Sea Scouts, but it's also doing a good thing for the Coast Guard Auxiliary and for the Coast Guard. And I'd like to leave you with a final thought. The person who says it cannot be done should not interrupt the person who is doing it. We're getting this done, and frankly, we're getting it done through the resources that we've been able to find, beg, borrow, and steal. And we're getting through your enthusiasm, we're getting more and more people interested in what we're doing to support these young people and to support the Coast Guard Auxiliary through the AuxScout program. So I just want to mention that our next quarterly forum will be on July 9th, which again will be a Sunday at 20:30 Eastern time. And I hope that people will be able to join us. If you have any recommendations for improving this forum, please let us know, and we'll do our best to make it happen. As always, we're anxious to answer any questions or give you an opportunity to talk about things. So this is it for the formal end of this forum, but we'll stay on the line, and if people have questions or comments they'd like to share, Ron, maybe what you ought to do is turn off the recording.